Mr. Cross, open the door. Your wife is under arrest. The voice outside was sharp enough to cut glass. The pounding that followed shook the front door so violently, Jason half expected the hinges to snap. This wasn't some polite knock from a neighbor. This was the kind of hammering you hear in police raids on late-night crime shows, except this wasn't TV. This was happening in the pale morning quiet of his own home, where the only sound should have been birds and the slow drip of his coffee pot. Jason had been awake for less than half an hour, still wrapped in his flannel robe, socks on his feet. First mug of coffee warming his hands. The pounding came again, even harder this time, echoing through the walls. Jason Cross? Step outside. Now! The voice carried theatrical authority, completely out of place in their peaceful suburban street. Camille appeared at the end of the hallway, tying her dark hair back, one eyebrow raised as if to silently ask, seriously? At this hour? Jason set his mug on the counter and headed for the door, pulse starting to climb. Through the narrow window beside the frame, he could see movement. 3 men stood positioned on his porch. 2 in front, 1 behind, broad shoulders, tactical pants, dark navy shirts. Large white letters were printed across their backs. HOA Inspector. To someone just waking up, the shiny uniforms might have passed for real law enforcement. Sunglasses hid their eyes, the tallest. One up front rested his hand, very intentionally, on the holstered sidearm at his hip. Jason. Opened the door only as far as the chain allowed. What's going on? The tall man stepped forward, and Jason's gut dropped. Trent Mercer, the smug neighbor, from across the street. The guy whose smile always looked like he was seconds away from telling you how much better he thought he was. Now Trent wore wraparound shades, a low cap, and the swagger of someone playing pretend authority. Step aside, sir, Trent said, lowering his voice for dramatic effect. We received a report of an HOA violation. Your wife needs to come with us for questioning? Have you ever had someone try to intimidate you with fake power? What would you do if strangers in imitation uniforms showed up at your door claiming they had the right to arrest your spouse? Before we continue, tell us what city or country you're watching from. We love seeing how far our family reaches, and if you agree no one should ever be bullied into surrendering their rights, hit that like button and subscribe to Story Arc. Protecting your home starts with knowing how to stand up to frauds. Jason stared at them in disbelief, questioning. By the HOA, Trent smirked wider, gesturing to the 2 men behind him. Neighborhood security is serious business, Mr. Cross. Now bring her out. We can make this easy, or we can make it difficult. One of the so-called inspectors shifted awkwardly. The other kept glancing toward the street, clearly worried someone might see them. Footsteps approached from behind Jason. Camille stepped into view. Calm, almost elegant in her fitted workout jacket with silver piping and tailored black pants. Her posture didn't waver. Trent straightened, trying again to look authoritative. Ma'am, you need to come with us. Camille's voice was cool, every word measured. Do you have a warrant? The question hit Trent like a slap. His smirk twitched. What? Her tone didn't change. Do you have a search warrant? An arrest warrant? Any legally recognized documentation whatsoever? One of the inspectors coughed, clearly hiding a laugh. The other turned away, second-hand embarrassment creeping in. Trent's jaw tightened. His fingers brushed the grip of the gun at his hip like he wanted them all to remember he had it. I don't need paperwork to keep this neighborhood secure, he snapped. Camille never blinked. Her shoulders settled. Her presence shifting into something still, powerful, unmovable. Jason recognized that look immediately. The one she wore when tension tightened around them like a wire. Jason, she said without turning toward him. Call the sheriff's office. Ask for the duty sergeant. Tell them there are 3 men impersonating officers on our porch. Trent's lip curled into a mean little sneer. You're making a big mistake. Camille's answer was crisp, unmoving. No, Trent, the mistake is yours. For a beat, the porch held its breath. Camille didn't flinch. She planted herself and fixed Trent with a steady gaze. Jason felt the pressure in the air, like something fragile stretched too far. One wrong motion and everything could shatter. Trent finally hissed between his teeth. You'll regret this. Camille didn't blink. Not as much as you will if you take another step. The standoff hung there, each second heavy and watchful. Neighbors peered from windows, phones already recording. Trent's jaw twitched. At last he stepped back, signaling his men to fall in. "This isn't over," he spat as they retreated. "You're right," Camille said quietly. "It isn't. But next time bring the real law." His face burned with fury as he and his crew shuffled down the path and toward their truck, towing the borrowed bravado away. Jason and Camille both knew, with a hollow certainty, that he would return. Sure enough, the next morning confirmed their gut feeling. Footsteps crunched up the drive. Jason peeled the blinds just in time to see Trent advancing again, this time with 5 men in the same glossy HOA inspector shirts. Their fake patches shone under the sun. Sunglasses hid jittery eyes. One carried bolt cutters, another a crowbar. They looked less like neighbors than a cheap enforcement crew hired for a bad movie. Trent planted himself at the foot of the steps, chest thrust forward, voice booming to reach the cul-de-sac. "Camille Cross, you're in violation of HOA code. Your fence is 6 feet. Regulation is 4. You ignored our orders, so we're here to enforce compliance." Camille cracked the door halfway, Jason beside her like a silent pillar. Her tone was calm and razor clear. "Enforcement? You don't have authority here. If you step onto this property, you'll be committing criminal trespass. Don't make that mistake." Trent waved a dismissive hand. "Don't tell me what to do. If you won't obey, I'll take care of it myself. I'm coming onto this property and removing that fence today." The men behind him straightened, feeding on his act. One slapped the crowbar into his palm like it was a prop in a show. Camille's eyes narrowed. Her voice hardened into steel. "Set 1 foot inside my home and you'll be treated like the criminals you are. Try me and you'll see how fast your little spectacle ends." Trent barked a harsh laugh, glancing back at his men. "Hear that? She thinks threats will stop us. Boys, be ready. If she won't cooperate, we'll go in the hard way." The air thickened. The porch thrummed with the promise of violence. Camille stepped forward, voice low and final. "Go on then, Trent. Enter my house. It will be the last stupid thing you ever do." For a beat, Trent froze. The swagger faltered. He flicked his eyes to the men at his back, measuring the risk, but arrogance is a stubborn thing. He straightened, forced a bark of a laugh. "Scare me with tough talk? This is an HOA issue. You don't decide. I do." One of his men shifted uneasily, but Trent shoved ahead, planting a boot on the bottom step. "Stand aside, Camille. If you won't comply, I'll do it myself." "That fence comes down today." Camille's voice cut through him, calm and merciless. "You're on the brink of your own ruin, Trent. Take another step and I'll make sure you fall hard." Trent leaned in, sneer close to the crack of the door. "My ruin? No, Camille. The only thing falling today is that fence, and I'll be the one bringing it down." He shoved his hand forward, fingers brushing the doorframe as if ready to force it open. Behind him, his men tightened their grips around the bolt cutters and crowbar, riding the wave of his reckless confidence. The porch itself felt tense, alive, as though the boards knew what was about to happen. Curtains flickered across the neighborhood, eyes peering from behind glass. Jason's hands balled into fists at his sides. But Camille didn't retreat. She didn't so much as blink. Her gaze fixed on Trent. Controlled. Warning. Immovable. Then Trent made his choice. He pressed his palm harder against the door and pushed, muscles tensing to shove his way inside, but Camille was already moving. She swung the door fully open with swift precision, seized Trent's wrist before his brain could register the shift, and twisted. A sharp grunt tore from his chest as his balance broke. His knees buckled, and in seconds he was slammed face down on the porch. Cheek grinding into the wood, Camille's knee locked between his shoulder blades, holding him in place like she had done it 1,000 times before. Because she had. The sound that followed wasn't silence. It was shock. Gasps rippled through the neighborhood, the men behind. Trent froze, their tools suddenly dead weight. Crowbar, bolt cutters held, but no longer useful. Neighbors stared from windows, mouths open. Camille's voice cut through the stillness, sharp, steady, unmistakably authoritative. "Trent Mercer, You are under arrest for criminal trespass, impersonating an officer, harassment, and attempted unlawful entry into a private residence. Each accusation struck with the force of a hammer. Pinned to the boards, sweat gathering on his temple, Trent grit out, Who the hell are you?" Camille didn't hesitate. One hand kept him restrained while the other slipped into her jacket. She drew out her badge and held it where every watching eye could see. The sunlight caught the metal, glinting hard and bright. "I'm Sheriff Camille Cross, and you just tried to break into a sheriff's home." The reaction was immediate. Gasps, a few choked exclamations. Trent's men exchanged panicked looks, faces draining of color. Camille lifted her head toward them, her tone turning iron cold. "My husband already contacted dispatch. Units are on the way right now. If you don't want to be wearing cuffs next to Trent, I suggest you leave this property immediately." For a moment, the world held still. Then, clatter. The crowbar hit the ground. Another man backed away, shaking his head like he was suddenly waking from a bad dream, and then they scattered, all of them. Down the steps, across the street, fleeing fast, abandoning Trent without a glance back. Trent wriggled beneath Camille's hold. But it changed nothing. His authority, his image, his swagger were gone. Crushed publicly where everyone could witness it, Camille kept her knee planted firmly between his shoulders. The porch around them buzzed with whispers, phones filming, neighbors witnessing the fall of the loudest man on the block. The same neighbors who once muttered doubts about. Camille now stared at her with something close to awe. And then the sound came. Sirens, growing nearer. Red and blue lights, washing across the cul-de-sac, too. Sheriff's cruisers screeched to a stop. Doors flew. Open deputies advanced, weapons ready, until Camille's voice rose above the chaos. "I've got him restrained." "He's in custody." In moments, they took over. One deputy cuffed Trent, hauling him upright. His face burned crimson, his eyes darting around at the crowd, capturing every second on their phones. His trademark smirk had vanished. All that remained was humiliation. The deputies marched him toward the squad car. He jerked once, as if to resist, but a single look from Camille made him freeze. Voices murmured across the neighborhood, shock turning to quiet celebration. The car door opened. Trent was pushed inside. The door slammed. The lock clicked shut. The man who tried to bully, to intimidate, to fake authority, now sat behind real steel and real law. If you stand for real justice beating false power, hit that like button and subscribe to the Final Boundary Tales, because some battles were never about fences. They were always about knowing exactly who you are and refusing to be broken.